The death toll now stands at 86 after a deadly chemical attack in Syria. Many of those dead are children.
Yeah, this is only the latest atrocity in a conflict there that has claimed roughly 400,000 lives in the last 6 years. Brandy is here with a guest who has seen firsthand the suffering of those fleeing Syria's civil war. Brandy.
Yeah, good morning. And a very important voice in all of this. Joining us is Rita Zawaida, the CEO of SMC Medical Missions, which provides medical aid to Syrian refugees in Greece, Jordan, and also inside Syria. We appreciate you being here and you sharing this with us. When you heard what happened in Syria earlier this week, the chemical attack, I don't know if you've seen the images that came out of Syria after that. Many children, 26 children were among those 86 who are now confirmed dead. Having been there before, what was your reaction to that?
It's like everybody. It's just totally. I mean, you can't say. When you're seeing dead kids, it is just horrendous. You just want to cry. You just want to shout. So what I do when I get so mad is I make bread. Literally, I end up, because you need to pound something, anything. And I don't want to pound on my walls and stuff. So I just make bread and I start handing it out to everybody.
Well, after that, you must have a lot of bread that you had to hand out.
No, everybody takes it. It's Arabic bread. It's like everybody wants it.
So let's talk about, before we get into some of the larger issues here, talk about some of this work that you guys do for Syrian refugees. First, why is this something that you've dedicated your life to?
I lived in Syria. I lived in Syria for 10 years. And I was there during the reign of the father of Hafiz. So I saw it firsthand of what was actually happening. I mean, I walked over dead bodies. I had a tank, the barrel of a tank in my living room window for over a month, sitting there. You just saw so much, but I didn't realize that this here with the sun would actually go on for 6 years. Nobody realized that. I was there with the atrocities happened in Hama when 10,000 people were killed and the whole city was leveled down. You just can't see stuff and not do anything. And I have a lot of family and friends that are still living there. Up to today, they're still there. They have not left.
So you guys go into Greece, you go into Jordan where these Syrians are fleeing. You also go inside Syria and you provide medical aid. And I have to imagine that you have seen some pretty horrific things.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Try to describe for people who, even seeing the pictures, it's one thing to see a picture of a child suffering the result of a chemical attack or a bombing, but to see it firsthand is much different. Talk about what that's like.
It's something that affects you for life. I mean, it's just no way when you see a child whose arms have been blown off, or a child who you hear that was sitting on his her grandfather's lap and a bomb dropped and his face flew off and went into her face. What does she live with? I had a young man that was reaching out to grab his mother and sister that were in a house before the bomb dropped, and he couldn't grab them. He couldn't, and he realized that his hands were blown off. I mean, you see a lot of stuff like this.
When you see that level of suffering, and you've seen it firsthand, and we hear about what happened in Syria with their own president. I know some people are disputing that, but it appears that their own president carried out this chemical attack against his own people. When the world does nothing, and we don't know what the response of the United Nations is going to be or the United States is going to be, but if they do nothing, what message do you think that sends to the people who are in Syria still, or to the people who have...
That nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Do you think that's how they feel?
Oh, right now? A lot of them think that. Because why hasn't happened? Every time the news will come up is when you've had Al-Kurdi that was on the beach in Turkey. Then it was a big thing, and the news jumped on it. Then you had Omran, that was the little boy that was in the ambulance and sitting there. Okay, everyone got upset. Media wanted to cover it, and then it died. Mm-hmm. You hear this. And then nobody does anything. Obama, when he was in office, said, we will not let it happen again. And they did. Nobody stopped anything. And we still have relations with Russia and Iran that are still there. You still have all these fighters, foreign fighters, that are in. The only thing that the Syrians think is it's the American people that are really helping and really care, but the governments do not.
So what do you think our government should do? What do you think the appropriate response is at this point after 400,000 lives lost, 6 years in the middle of a war, chemical warfare? What do you think the United States should do in Syria?
First of all, get Russia out and also have the troops out that the U.S. has troops on the ground. We don't need those. Nobody knows anymore who's running that country. Okay, you have Bashar that is there and he has his forces. But each time someone's giving him weapons, he's able to take on more areas and stuff. Even if we have to let ISIS in there, let ISIS in for a while and then bomb him, you know, where there's a way we can do it. We can assassinate him. You know, put him out for war crimes. You got to do something. I mean, the area that was hit is not an area where ISIS was. There is no ISIS fighters. The ISIS fighters are in Hama, which is away from where Idlib is. Idlib and Aleppo are very similar to where Vancouver is for us here in Seattle. I mean, it's very easy to cross that border, you know, and so we need to keep these safe borders. We need the no-fly zones. We need anything because people have been pushed to those borders.
Well, Rita, we so appreciate your insight and the work that you're doing to help people in Syria who are desperately in need and people fleeing that civil war. An important perspective, and I think everyone agrees something has to be done. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll be back after this.